Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à cette
Good evening,
réunion.
everyone. Welcome to our regular public meeting of Dieppe City Council, October 14, 2025. Having said this, the city of Dieppe recognizes that the land on which it operates is part of the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. Also, dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So once again, good evening and welcome to you all. Let's knock off the items that we are doing, and I will call this meeting to order. Having done this now, we will confirm quorum. Everyone's here. Let's move on. You're all here? All right. This allows us to move on with the agenda. Conflict of interest declarations. There being none, nothing to report for conflicts of interest. Move on to the next item. This brings us to item 7, adoption of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against, nay. The motion is carried as presented. That's number 7. 8, presentations, inquiries, and petitions. This brings us to 8.1, inquiries by council members to Kodiak Regional RCMP, and we welcome Sergeant Sylvette Hébert, who is here this evening with us. If I can find the right button. It doesn't want to light up. There you go. Good evening. Welcome. Good evening, Your Worship, council members, employees of the city, and good evening, members of public. I had no follow-up from the last meeting. I think that we had spoken about the area of Bourg Street the last time. I don't know if we've had any update about that. Had you had any updates about Bourg Street? No, not yet. Okay. Let's move on with the community policing group. The officers of community policing have completed their update for the plan SAFE in the 39 schools of our community. They continue to do regular routine patrols in school zones in order to ensure the safety of our young learners. These officers have also participated in many presentations in our schools, like a safety on the internet. Having said this, many presentations are scheduled in the coming weeks throughout our 3 communities. With regard to the crime reduction, last month, we proceeded with many open-air operations in order to curb drug consumption in public. We also seized an important quantity of narcotics during these operations and encouraged these people to consume in designated areas. It's important to mention that during these operations, police officers also executed many arrest warrants. This group also helped in provincial files implicating residents of the Greater Moncton area. With regard to general investigation, as mentioned at the last meeting on August 27, 2025, a jewelry store in the city center of Moncton was the victim of a robbery. 2 individuals used weapons and violence and fled with a considerable quantity of jewelry. The GIS team, with the assistance of others, have arrested 2 of the 3 suspects. The 3rd suspect has been identified and an arrest warrant has been issued. On September 25, 2025, the patrol received a call involving an altercation between two individuals and a residence on Orleans Street. Upon the arrival, they found a person who was seriously injured on the ground. Upon discovering this, a 30-year-old man was arrested and is currently detained awaiting trial. With regard to patrols, on September 9, 2025, the patrol responded to a collision on the road between a school bus and a vehicle. This happened on Adélac-Savoie Boulevard. There were students aboard the bus, and fortunately, no one was injured. 13 September 2025, there was a collision on Highway 15 at the Louisville exit, which sadly cost the life of a young person of 20 years of age who came from Quebec. On September 17, there was a LiDAR operation in the Dieppe area. 3 fines and 5 warnings were issued. On the afternoon of September 27, members of the regional service of RCMP went to Mountain Road where a man with a weapon had committed a theft in a business. He had fled on foot and went to hide in a residence close by. The police officers set up a safety perimeter, and the man then fired shots from the home. He set fire to the home and a car and then fled on foot. And member used his weapon to shoot at the man. His death was then noted at the UBIS, and the RCMP in New Brunswick, which is accountable and transparent, has asked CERC, an independent agency, to investigate this incident. On September, I'm happy to tell you that the police officers are physically well. On September 29th, the RCMP in Kodiak answered a call of a man issuing death threats uh, with a weapon in a residence on Acadia Street. The suspect was rapidly barricaded inside the home, and our tactical emergency response proceeded to arrest the individual. Finally, 105 fines were issued during the month of September in the Dieppe area. Speeds and non-registered vehicles are the most common offenses. That's it for me this evening. Thank you. Questions by members of council? I think we have some difficulties with the microphones this evening, it appears. I'm not sure how we're going to manage this because we're not used to this kind of issue. It seems that not all councillors on this side were okay. It looks like on this side we're okay, but on the other side, there are some issues. Certainly for us.
On va vous demander de vous déplacer au podium en
We're
avant.
going to ask you to move to the podium here in front. Your Worship, my question for the RCMP this evening is at the beginning of every year, there is a problem with regard to traffic near Mathieu Martin to the entrance there. Have there been any complaints or has any follow-up been done, any checking been done in order to see that there are issues with traffic? And maybe you could give us an update on this at the UNES report. Yes, I'll follow up on that and I'll get back to you. Thank you. Are there any other questions? No other questions for the RCMP member. So thank you very much for being here this evening and for the great work undertaken by our CMP members to protect our citizens. We thank you. Now in item 8.2, public hearing, municipal development plan and zoning bylaw. Alexandre Girard, please. One moment, Your Worship. Let me do it from this microphone for some part of the meeting. We'll wait until the issues with microphones are resolved. So before inviting Mr. Girard to do the presentation for the public hearing, as you know, Dieppe is undergoing an important demographic increase for the last several years, but like elsewhere in the country, it's difficult to find where to live and prices are higher. We see this in our community as well. But Dieppe wants to have a safe and quality life for all our residents. To answer this objective, the City of Dieppe has contacted Canada Mortgage and Housing, like many other municipalities have done in New Brunswick, to allow gentle densification in order to increase the number of residences being built. Gentle densification is a way of adding housing to existing residential neighborhoods. A single family home could transform its garage to an apartment for the young adults of the home. And there can be accessory buildings, for example, in the garden of another building, after building 4-unit apartment buildings. And also, it is already allowed for some years now that a second home, accessory home, be added to a single family home. The council has asked the federal government to change the amendments between now and the end of the year. In order to bring forward this amendment, we need the flexibility for other places in Canada is conditional and is conditional upon this change. Dieppe will receive in turn some $7.27 million shared through 4 payments. We are aware that there are concerns raised by the community, and they will be shared with us this evening. Council will also be in position to make an enlightened decision on what's available to us as a municipal council. The presentation will give you the details about the proposed changes and will illuminate the steps to take in this process. We have received letters of objection. We will be reading them after Mr. Girard gives his presentation, and will certainly clear up some of the concerns raised, and then we will proceed to a discussion after that. Mr. Girard. Thank you, Mr. Melançon. Mr. Girard. Good evening, Your Worship, council members. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I'm going to be doing a presentation and a follow-up to the presentation which was held in September. We are going to go through the proposed amendments to the municipal zoning plan, and which will allow up to 3 accessory dwellings in R1 and R2 zones. So in my presentation, we have to put everything into context. This depends upon a legal process. There are timelines and in critical dates following consultation before the legal changes are done. So we'll be talking about some of the public consultation initiatives, and we will be looking at the current regulations, what is already allowed within the municipality, and also we'll be discussing and presenting the proposed approach adopted and terms of application for this initiative, proposed amendments to municipal plans, Z9, the supporting measures, and the next steps. So you have in front of you a timeline, including critical dates, the important dates, where members of council have the ability to put a resolution in to change the planning and zoning details. We have illustrated the changes to the municipal plan, but we've taken the opportunity to provide you with the outline of the changes brought to the zoning bylaw. We are having a public hearing today, and we will be able to have an opportunity to hear objections presented formally in this process. There will also be a second public hearing in order to see what the specific amendments to the municipal plan are and to provide a second opportunity to come back to the proposed amendments to the municipal development plan and zoning bylaw. This file will be presented to the Planning Advisory Committee for purposes of a formal recommendation to council. This will happen on November 19 in order to allow us to make a decision November 24th. So we'll be moving to first and second reading on for having this done in a December meeting. So once again, the municipality has done many consultation processes, and I saw these initiatives. So we held a forum on growth in June, and we spread it out over 2 days. We had an opportunity to have discussions with all people who physically came here to the City Hall. We had photos, images. We were explaining what the initiatives were. We also had a communication service launch a page entitled Let's Grow Together. There was an online survey that was held between the 2nd and 21st of June. We got feedback through this platform. We published a summary of the proposed amendment on the Dieppe website to look at the elements of gentle densification. It was a public presentation on the website of the city. We sent letters to people and the residents of Dieppe, notice of this public hearing through the website. So what kind of regulations exist currently for the issue of accessory dwellings? Accessory dwellings are allowed under all R1, R2 with regard to a single family home. And so this is allowed as a secondary usage. So only one accessory dwelling is allowed at the present time. You cannot have more than 35% of the area. The lot receives all municipal services, so it's important to have water and sewage services. The lot must receive all municipal services, as I said, one additional parking space, the shared entrance with the main building. With regard to a garden home or garden house, these are not familiar with garden house or garden pavilion under current regulations. We're talking about a garden pavilion which is completely separate from the main home, which is still found on the lot as such. And the objective of the garden pavilion is to accommodate a specific dwelling, an accessory dwelling. It is already a form of development which is currently allowed, once again, with some parameters in place. It is located at 2.4 meters from the side boundary, or at least 6 meters from the rear boundary of the lot, does not exceed 4 meters in building height, and 6.7 meters in height at the highest point, be located on a lot of at least 900 square meters, not exceed 75 square meters in gross floor area. The same principle must receive all municipal services or is equipped with a septic tank, one parking space, and the entrances access point must be shared. So with regard to this gentle densification, we are presenting an amendment to the municipal plan. The objective here is to repeal the notion of residential density. We're talking about the planned number of residential buildings with a net density of less than 20 units per hectare, per net hectare, and to replace it by what is in front of you. So I'll read it because it's worthwhile to become aware of it. So the concept of recognizing the planned number of residential buildings and to allow the possibilities of gentle densification, existing residential areas through the addition of up to 3 accessory dwelling units linked to single family homes. And so principle 16, which is added, the council's principle is to ensure the harmonious integration of accessory dwelling units within residential neighborhoods. This comes with a proposal too. It is proposed that the council establish and maintain clear requirements for the addition of accessory dwelling units in order to regulate gentle densification and ensure the predictability of the built environment and parking spaces. Here again, this proposal would be translated into what is proposed in the zoning bylaw. So what is the proposed approach? Well, if you looking to align with implementing, and it's based on 3 guidelines, not require major amendments from these outlines. And so the initiatives overall are within many of the existing principles of the municipal plan, where we include diversity and the different types of residences, to respect the guidelines which are already implemented following the signature of the agreement. One element which is important from the point of view of the recommendation of the proposal, which is put forward by the staff, is the current ensure the harmonious integration of new housing. We propose this in alignment with accessory dwellings, multifamily homes of 4 units. And so we are adopting an approach which allows for increased density without profoundly transforming the established urban fabric in low density residential areas, ensure the harmonious integration of new housing into the existing built environment. Integration of comments resulting from public consultation. We have received much feedback already. We believe that we have well taken into account the comments we've received up until now from various comments that have been shared with staff. So you have in front of you a map which illustrates the areas affected by the proposed amendment, single-family residential zone R1 and R2. More specifically, this map illustrates these properties which would be eligible for this initiative, and you have them. You have a big black outline. So it targets 80%, about approximately 80% of all properties which are found between R1 initiatives. So one of the measures put forward that has been mentioned is that a load, in order to be eligible for this initiative, to allow up to 3 accessory dwellings, must be a minimum lot size of 700 square meters with a minimum of 18 meters of frontage. Here we're talking about transforming potentially a garage into a accessory dwelling, adding a pavilion home, a garden pavilion, or a second floor, either underneath or on top. So it is to encourage renovation of the existing shell of residents, but it would allow accessories or annexes to the existing building, knowing that there are other parameters that must be met according to the side and front and back boundaries of the lot. So once again, you have a picture which illustrates this transformation. We have put a lot of visuals forward in order for people can properly understand the impact of the changes. Once again, we're talking about transformation of the urban fabric to work with the existing context, which would allow some additions to the current building without necessarily having a substantial impact on the urban fabric. Here we're talking about putting a limit of size of the accessory dwellings, a maximum of 80% to a maximum of 75 square meters. The owner occupied must be there. So this is an element to be taken into consideration where the owner occupier has to make the application, identify the first level as the main dwelling. The slide shows you the setbacks which are required. So cannot be closer than 6 meters from the front yard, 3 from the meters from the side, and 6 meters from the back. And you would impose a maximum of 2 doors in front on the front facade. So the architecturally speaking, the objective is to preserve the residential character of the home. This was a question that was asked in our survey. The majority of answers that we received were in favor of limiting the number of doors on the front. So we've limited it to 2. we didn't want necessarily have 4 doors on the front of the street in order to preserve the residential character of these existing neighborhoods. So, an important thing here, which is associated with the accessory dwellings, is to allow tandem parking spaces. The requirement would be 1 parking space required for each housing unit. The initiative is presented in the context where we believe that we understand that people who will be using these accessory dwellings will be an aging population or young couples who would have difficulty in finding um, housing. And so 1 parking space for each housing unit is a reasonable approach. Clearly, when we put them in the context that would allow tandem parking spaces, because we don't necessarily want the whole front of the residence be taken over by parking spaces. So this is why we're limiting and we allow tandem parking. Here are some possible parking configurations which could be developed to give you some context with regard to how parking could happen on a lot. With regard to next steps, this concludes the formal part of the presentation. The upcoming important dates will allow us to move through the content for November 19th. The file will go in front of the Planning Advisory Committee for formal recommendation. November 24th, the members of council will receive the formal recommendation of the Urban Planning Advisory Committee in order to make a decision. So this concludes the presentation I was going to make, and we'll move to the public hearing to listen to objections, and then we will have an opportunity to move forward with questions by members of the public. So I will leave the floor to the CAO. Thank you for this presentation. Now we're going to go through the comments that we have received by citizens. So members of council, it's my pleasure. Angela Spencer will be with me, and we have citizens' comments. We'll be reading them for public purposes. So we can have the first comment.
Homeowners to add secondary unit can be a creative, inclusive way solution to our city's housing needs. At the same time, I would like to raise a concern regarding the potential impact on our trees and green spaces. Over the past several years, our community has already seen significant tree removal due to development. Trees are not only essential for maintaining biodiversity and reducing greenhouse gases, but they also provide shade, improve air quality, and contribute to the beauty and comfort of our neighborhood. Other cities have found ways to balance these needs successfully. For example, Barcelona, Spain created the Superblock initiatives, which recognize city blocks to reduce traffic, expand green spaces, and preserve existing trees while allowing higher density living. This project has become a model for how urban areas can grow in harmony with nature, and residents now enjoy vibrant tree-lined neighborhoods to combine housing and sustainability. To make these kind of vision practical for Dieppe, a few simple steps could be considered. Protect existing trees during construction by requiring tree protection plans for any new unit. If a tree must be removed, it would be replaced with other tree or trees of similar size and shade of the property. Offer incentives for homeowners or builders who go beyond minimum requirements by preserving mature trees or planting flowers and shrubs that attract bees and butterflies. Use surface that let rain soak into the ground instead of pavement everywhere. This helps keep trees healthy and prevents flooding. Design some neighborhood streets to be greener and people providing with more trees, slower traffic, and soft safer spots for walking and biking. Set a tree coverage goal. Example, aim for 40% shade covered in neighborhoods by 2030. Having a number keeps the city accountable and lets residents see progress. Start a big community planting projects where schools and families help plant thousands of trees over time. Encourage green roofs or rooftop garden on small new units to add back greenery. Collect rainwater with barrels from rooftops of new units to rouse for trees and garden. Make new units solar ready so it's easy to add solar panels in the future. Use gravel or grass for driveway instead of all pavement to keep the ground cooler and healthier. I urge the city to take careful steps to ensure that tree preservation is made on priority in permitting and development process. For example, setting clear guidelines on tree protection, requiring replacement plantings when removal is unavoidable, and encouraging design that integrate green space could help balance our city's growth with environmental sustainability. I support the intention behind this modification. I also believe that protecting trees must remain a central part of Dieppe's vision for the future. Thanks. Best regard, Jannick Bourque.
Dear City Clerk, I'm writing as a resident of Dieppe to express my opposition to the proposed zoning change that would allow up to 4 units per single dwelling. While I understand the intent to address housing needs, I believe this would change negatively impact our community. My concerns include neighborhood character. Allowing 4 units per lot could significantly alter the look and feel of established neighborhoods, changing them to primarily single-family areas to high-density developments. Parking and traffic. Additional units will increase parking demand and the already problematic traffic congestion, creating challenges for both residents and emergency services. Infrastructure strain. Our current infrastructure, roads, water, sewage, schools, and community services is not designed to handle this rapid increase in density that we are already struggling with at the current time. As a single household, I already pay the same water rate as a property with multiple units, despite using significantly fewer resources. Increasing density without adjusting utility structures would only worsen this imbalance and place an unfair burden on residents like myself. Property values and livability. Rapid intensification could reduce property values and diminish the quality of life for current residents. Financial impact. If the city moves forward with this zoning change, property taxes will inevitably need to increase to fund expanded infrastructure and services. As a single dwelling homeowner, my taxes are already rising, and additional increases to subsidize higher density developments would place an unfair strain on households like mine. I respectfully urge the council to reconsider this proposal and instead explore balanced alternatives such as targeted densification along transit corridors or mixed-use developments that better align with existing infrastructure. Thank you for considering my perspective. I value the thoughtful planning of our city and hope the council will prioritize sustainable, community-oriented growth. Sincerely, Michelle Weaver.
Merci pour le courriel sur la projection de densité.
Thank you for your email about housing density projections. Since comments are welcome, I'm sharing my personal opinion, which follows my previous ones. Dieppe was marketed as a wooded, French-speaking residential extension of Moncton, a calm and high-quality place for families to settle and raise children. Unfortunately, increasing density and deforestation are undermining that image. With the impoverishment of neighborhoods, Dieppe is losing the promise of what it once was. Personally, the city has more to gain by becoming this, and you see the image of a residential neighborhood, rather than becoming this, an image of an apartment building. And the homeowners I speak with who pay taxes all share the same view. Thank you for considering this opinion. Geoffroy Dalissier. Good evening. I would like to submit my opinion against the proposed bylaw change allowing 4-unit developments. Dieppe has grown significantly in recent years, especially with the addition of multiple apartment blocks. The city's infrastructure no longer meets the needs of the residents, especially the condition of roads, which are now congested at all hours. Before continuing to welcome large numbers of new residents, the city must address the current unmet needs so that Dieppe can retain its charm, which it is rapidly losing. Single family and two family zones must remain as they are to preserve what's left. Please do not amend the bylaw. Jeannie Godin. And the next one, hello. First, I'd like to thank the City of Dieppe for providing information about the gentle densification project and for allowing us to share our opinions. Second, I'm aware of the current housing shortage. However, I'm very concerned about converting single-family homes into multi-unit dwellings. My family and I experienced a similar situation with our father's home in Sherbrooke. After such a project was implemented in his neighborhood, the situation gradually deteriorated. Although the city had established guidelines, they lost control. Due to a lack of maintenance, the condition of some homes and the outdoor spaces worsened. Property values declined. Because of that, frequent turnover meant my father no longer knew his neighbors. His sense of belonging and safety were deeply affected. In conclusion, I strongly oppose this project. In the medium and long term, we risk changes that residents of Dieppe did not ask for. Thank you for your attention. Have a good evening. Marie Zodette.
Identification as a single-family home, great, quiet place to live. I have been broken into twice in the last year, not once in my 58 years before. We do not have the infrastructure to support the current population growth, never mind higher densification and the many multi-units to come on Dieppe Boulevard. Try to drive around these days. We need a added road to get around before this is even looked at. This does not drive down the cost of rent. Cost of construction will make the rents higher, not lower. Homeowners will do this to do it for a profit, not to be nice. What about the taxes? People in their house who do this will leave Dieppe for lower taxes outside Dieppe, and these places will become a place for non-homeowner tenants. Go drive down the roads with all the townhouses, and it looks like a mall parking lot. The only people that benefit from this are the wealthy that will be living just outside of the city limits or beyond, not Dieppers. I'm a fourth-generation Dieppe citizen, probably the last from our family, who told his kids, 25 years old, to get out and go elsewhere. The future here does not look bright. Sorry, but this is how many people feel about the place they call home. Mark.
Je ne suis pas d'accord avec ce projet car dans ma rue, les maisons sont déjà très
I
proches.
do not agree with this project. On my street, houses are already very close together and there are a number of vehicles parked along the road. Also, my street is currently peaceful and adding more housing and more residents would increase traffic, noise, and congestion. There are already several new apartment buildings near my street and on adjacent streets. I chose to live here because it was peaceful and not in the heart of the city. The peaceful setting is disappearing and the neighborhood is becoming busier and noisier. I hope you will consider my point of view. Janice Léger. Good evening. I just watched the Council's presentation on gentle densification, and I'm writing to say I fully support the project. This approach will help families with aging parents or young adults seeking independence. It will also help formalize a growing trend, multi-person cohabitation in residential neighborhoods. There's nothing wrong with that, but converting a single family home into 4 distinct units could make cohabitation more sustainable and healthier. I appreciated the parking proposals in the presentation. The visuals help residents imagine how these changes might look in our urban setting. They're especially important to reassure citizens who may be fearful of change. I also agree with the question and comment by Councillor Lantaigne about the importance of ensuring that the homeowner must be the occupant of the property. This project is truly interesting, but could go off track if it became an opportunity for investors to convert single-family homes into rental units solely for profit. The project needs clear boundaries. I'm not an expert in regulations, but I'd like to see provisions requiring the owner to occupy one of the units on the property. This would also prevent the house from being abandoned if all tenants left at once. The issue of citizen acceptance of this new approach is what worries me most. Collectively, we don't respond well to change, and there have been many changes in recent years. The initial reaction might be, yes, but not in my backyard. People want to protect their peace, their quiet, and projects that propose more people or more cars in a neighborhood are not popular. I suggest framing it through a multi-generational lens. It's a reality that affects many families and will allow many to see themselves in this project. Have a great day. Pascal Paulin.
At this point in time, for many years, the city has been a bedroom community for Moncton, but has advanced beyond this status and is now a competitive economic driver of a high caliber when compared to other municipalities in the province. The city has the opportunity to create a viable tax base and positive environment for its citizens by including greater density in its urban fabric. I strongly support increasing density, and this gentle densification proposal is excellent. But opportunities are currently being missed, and the negative impacts of this are already being felt and will continue to be felt on into the future unless remedial steps are taken. To be blunt, aside from within the vicinity of City Hall, our city's endeavor to include greater density have been poorly implemented. Allowing and encouraging higher density development along the Dieppe Boulevard and Amiro corridor has been a positive step in the right direction, but the devil is in the details. As it stands, our city has failed to diversify and disperse transportation destinations throughout the same areas that densification has occurred. At this time, residents of the city must still commute to narrowly defined and developed retail and employment nodes found mostly along the Champlain Street corridor. While development of apartment and multi-unit housing is a step in the right direction, all that is currently been accomplished is increasing the number of commuters using our already underdeveloped road network and our nearly non-existing transit system. How many of the upper middle class residents who comprise of the majority of Dieppe citizens are going to be willing to use Kodiak Transit? How many transit riders are there at City Hall? Precious few. The root cause of the issue is the segmentation of the city into large blocks of residential zoning separated from any of the destinations to those residents need to go to. By creating density without dispersing the destinations that people are occupying such new density, travel, go for work, shopping, and leisure, our city has massively increased traffic on streets that are already over capacity. When someone wants to buy groceries, will they walk to a local store or will they drive their oversized SUV to a big box supermarket? When we can see that answer to this question already when we try to struggle through traffic to get anywhere in our city. The sad part of it is that they likely would walk to a local store if there were any that existed. The plans initially created for Dieppe Boulevard included commercial nodes at Chartersville, Melanson, and Amiro, and those plans have been abandoned for the sake of building large apartment buildings at these corners. These missed opportunities that is truly tragic is the failure of our city to at least include zoning requirement mixed use on the ground floor of these buildings. The city forced the developer to dedicate the ground floor of these new buildings to retail or office space. It would have created opportunities for residents to supply their needs by walking to nearby retail options and employment instead of driving. By increasing density without mixing in retail and workplaces, our city has guaranteed the addition of huge numbers of drivers to our already overburdened streets. At the same time, we're not accommodating these additional demands on our street by creating 4-lane arterial roads to carry the traffic. They have encouraged by filling our suburbs with drivers and apartment buildings. We need to ask ourselves, is the current dream of everyone biking or walking to work or shop actually realistic? In the winter, how many people in Dieppe will be willing to try this when almost no one is willing to do so even in the summer? Our bike lanes are empty and at rush hour. They are colossal virtue signal towards green city planning. The objective of creating walkable neighborhoods could have been a reality and still could be. If the city mandates mixing commercial and workplaces into the fabric of the city outside of the Champlain Street corridor and a few small segments of Dieppe Boulevard, the city must stop using inclusion zoning. The city has four options. One, do nothing different, create more density with an inclusion, and if I misspell this word, sorry about that. Zoning paradigm, causing all trips to be by car to Champlain corridor. All the while maintaining our goal of not accommodating the traffic we have created as the density grows. It may be very chic and trendy to think that all of the new citizens will ride the bus and bike everywhere, but ask yourself if you are willing to do this every day in and day out. Do you know? This will result in dangerous ground lock frustrating of our citizens and stunt growth. It will cause a public safety hazard by impeding us access to ambulances and fire services. Needless to say, our current approach is not sustainable. Number two, continue to stand by the inclusion zoning paradigm currently being utilized while expanding capacity for vehicular traffic on arterial road. This will require Dieppe Boulevard being developed into an arterial similar to Vaughan Harvey Boulevard in Moncton. It will require Amiro 4-lanes road being extended from Vanier down to Dover Road because this former country road was never anticipated to carry the traffic that it currently supports, let alone what is being developed along it. Roads of street, road combos, with a former street being forced to carry traffic of an arterial road and upgraded to 4 lanes while still having driveways, creating dangerous conflicts points alone in its route think Mountain Road and Champlain Street. If this is not done, the city will be crippled with vehicle traffic. This will in turn become the false solution of just one more lane, dude, and the induced demand that caused from it. This approach is somewhat more sustainable in the short term, but it's going to be creative havoc in the decades ahead of breeding more car dependency and induced demand. Abandoning inclusion, zoning, and diversity to the fabric of our city. Enforce that all new developments, sadly too late for the acres of apartment building and being built, must have workplace and retail on the ground floor. In neighborhoods that already exist, office, commercial, and retail zone must be included in under the undeveloped areas near intersections and along arterial. Not expand vehicular capacity and through the resulting gridlock, reduce people to shop, work, and live in their neighborhoods. But truly give people the chance to shop and work in their neighborhoods, build the diversity of zoning into the fabric of our city. The area around the aquatic center in the AG supermarket is a perfect example of what the majority of the city should become. We have already demonstrated the ability to do this. We can continue it. Fourth, what I believe to be the best approach in this fourth option, this would be a blended approach which could likely find the most successful implementation. Dieppe Boulevard having not been developed with driveways leading into it, it's a great opportunity for development into an arterial road without becoming a road like Vaughan Harvey. This will allow for the inevitable car volume that will come from the expansion of our city, but not creating a dangerous environment riddled with conflicts points like Champlain is. At the same time, enforcing mixed zoning throughout the city would dramatically cut down the amount of vehicle traffic on our streets and roads. Walkability and vehicular capacity do not have to be mutually excluded. At the same time, studies should be implemented to consider creation of exclusive bus rapid transit corridor close to other vehicles. Dieppe is a great city with tremendous potential. We just need to continue to mold the city into the shape we want and not fall prey to fades in the city planning like the recognizing the realities of commuting using cars. We must, however, remake the fabric of our city, not simply by adding density, but accommodating that density by diversifying our zoning to create walkability. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. Stephen Brown.
Bonjour, j'aimerais donner mes commentaires concernant la densification.
Thank you. I'd like to give you my comments on the gentle densification. I don't believe or agree with this possibility, but I'm not in disagreement with a certain construction. I think we should identify new streets or new areas where it's possible so people didn't surprised. Residents could choose the type of neighborhood they want. We must also consider our city's main roads. There's already much traffic, much more than there was 3 to 5 years ago. This will only make the congestion worse. We chose to settle in Dieppe for its French-speaking region, but unfortunately that's no longer the case. Things are changing, and in my opinion, not for the better. Have you considered our schools? They are already full. Have you considered the occupancy rates in our hospitals? They are already over 100% every day. These are all things that must be taken into account. Thank you for considering my opinion. I want to inform you that we object to this project. I'm attaching a document to explain our concerns. In residential sectors, in a single family home, we have quadruplexes. R1 and R2 zones were developed to allow peaceful, homogeneous, and residential areas. The addition of quadruplexes would radically alter the character of our neighborhoods. We moved into a Park Bonaventure in 2004 because it was zoned R1. We value the quality of life and the tranquility of this calm and stable environment. In our neighborhood, since housing is limited to single-family homes, there is less population density and less traffic. Our streets are safe and more secure for children playing outside and for neighbors who enjoy walking. During your presentation of the project on September 8th, you stated that it would not increase the number of people per residence, estimating 4 or 5 people per address. It's hard to believe that converting a single-family home into 4 units on the same lot wouldn't result in more people living there. You plan to require 4 parking spaces, but it will be difficult to control the number of vehicles per household. The development plan that the City of Dieppe wishes to amend Z9 2017 and its zoning bylaw Z10 2021 undermines our decision to move into the single-family home 20 years ago. If these changes were allowed, traffic will become heavier and parking availability will be insufficient. There will be many cars on the street due to a lack of space. We will have less privacy than in a strictly single-family neighborhood, and noise levels will increase. Here are our main concerns. 1, traffic and parking. Adding multiple dwellings to lots designed for 1 or 2 families will inevitably increase the number of vehicles per street. Dieppe's residential streets were not designed to absorb this surplus, leading to traffic and parking issues. 2, loss of neighborhood character. R1 and R2 areas are appealing precisely because they consist mainly of single-family or 2-family homes. Building quadruplexes breaks this homogeneity, reducing the tranquility sought by so many families. 3, impacts on quality of life. Rapid densification can lead to noise, loss of privacy, and increased pressure on green spaces, sidewalks, and local infrastructure. This may discourage families from staying long-term. 4, property values. Contrary to the argument of increased value, many residents fear that introducing denser rental housing will lower the value of neighboring single-family homes, directly affecting homeowners' investments. 5, owner occupancy. It will be difficult to ensure that the owner lives on site. This presents challenges for both tenants and the community. An absent owner leads to daily issues because we have to make sure that the owner continues living there. An absent owner leads to daily issues of maintenance, repairs, noise, parking violations, upkeep, etc. Alternative solutions. The housing crisis is real, but it can be addressed in other ways rather than densifying strictly single family residential zones. The city could prioritize building quadruplexes and mid-sized buildings in areas already designated for higher density or developing new neighborhoods that are better suited to existing infrastructure. In conclusion, transforming R1 and R2 zones to allow up to 3 accessory dwellings in addition to the main residence, a quadruplex, would be a rushed decision that risks harming the quality of life of established residents. We ask you to protect the single family and two family residential neighborhoods, which are central to Dieppe's identity. Our R1 neighborhoods offer calm, stability, homogeneity, and safety, making them a preferred choice for families or those seeking a peaceful and predictable living environment. Multi-unit buildings, such as those shown in your gentle densification plans, quadruplexes, create a sense of rupture with the family-oriented character of the area. We fear increased traffic, more noise, and a decline in the value of our properties. Respectfully, Nadia Daigle and Charles Cormier.
Hello, I'm writing to let you know that I'm opposed to the densification project. I have no issue with new streets having new zoning. Those who choose to buy lots and build on those streets will know what to expect from the start. Please do not change the regulations for existing streets. We built our home over 20 years ago. We wanted a neighborhood with a certain style of housing. We don't want to see apartments everywhere. Is there a petition we can sign? Thank you. Serge Vautour. Hello, I'm sending you my comments on the so-called gentle densification. I believe that this densification effort in Dieppe, which has been ongoing for several years, is harming our surroundings. Since the development of multiple apartment sites and dense housing, many concerns have arisen for Dieppe residents. We are experiencing a sharp increase in theft and vandalism in residential neighborhoods that were once calm and safe. Is this because more affordable housing is being placed in our neighborhoods? Is it due to Dieppe's rapidly growing population? Our streets are congested at all times of day. Cyclists now risk their lives riding through neighborhoods filled with stressed drivers navigating slow traffic. It would be wiser to develop multi-residential areas along major roads, not in quiet neighborhoods. Our schools are overcrowded, and increasing the population will only add pressure on school buses and the need for new schools. A more evenly distributed population would allow for new schools in different areas. Our hospitals and healthcare system are stretched to the limit with no improvements in sight. Budgets and services are not increasing at the same pace as the population. Our lives and health are now at risk due to the high demand from new residents arriving in our city. It would be much wiser to preserve our neighborhoods and continue developing designated multi-residential zones with proper roads and infrastructure to support higher density. We need to think ahead and build infrastructure that supports our future vision for housing rather than forcing residents to adapt to uncontrolled population growth and the pressure it brings. Daniel Doiron.
Z9 2017 and zoning bylaw Z10 2021, which would permit up to 3 accessory dwellings in addition to the main dwelling on R1 and R2 properties. While I understand and appreciate the city's desire to address the housing shortage and rising rents, I have serious concerns about the impact this change will have on established neighborhoods. Allowing up to 4 units on properties that were originally intended for single-family or low-density use risks straining existing infrastructure, parking, traffic flow, water and sewage systems, altering neighborhood character by creating higher density developments in areas not designed for them, reducing green space and privacy for current residents, potentially lowering property values and if density increases without proper long-term planning. There is no doubt that affordable housing is an important issue, but I believe there are more appropriate solutions that do not compromise the integrity of existing residential communities. For example, focusing densification efforts along areas already zoned for higher density or investing in purpose-built rental projects would better balance the city's housing needs with residents' quality of life. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that Council reconsider this proposal and seek alternative strategies to address housing challenges without negatively impacting low-density neighborhoods. Flo Durel.
Je tiens à exprimer mon opposition au projet de
I
modification.
wish to express my opposition to the proposed amendments to residential zoning R1 and R2 to allow up to 3 accessory buildings in addition to the principal residence. In other words, a building known as a quadruplex in our traditionally single-family residential area. Dieppe's R1 and R2 neighborhoods were designed to welcome families in peaceful, cohesive environments suited to single-family residential living. Introducing quadruplexes into these areas would radically alter the character of our neighborhoods. My parents moved into our Beau Séjour neighborhood in 1988 because it was zoned R1. At the time, it was wooded, quiet, and safe. In 2019, I bought their house with my partner and our 2 sons because I wanted to raise my children the way I was raised. Since then, we've welcomed 2 more children. My kids play outside constantly. That's very important to us because we've been trying to reduce screen time, which has been shown to negatively affect developing brains. In our neighborhood, since housing is limited to single-family homes, there is less population density and therefore less traffic. Our residential streets are safer for children playing outside and for neighbors who enjoy walking. During your presentation on the gentle densification project on September 8, 2028, 5, you stated that it would not increase the number of people per residence, estimating 45 people per address. It's hard to believe that converting a single-family home into 4 units on the same lot wouldn't result in more people living there. You plan to require 4 parking spaces, but it will be difficult to control the number of vehicles per household. The development plan that the City of Dieppe wishes to amend Z9 2017 and its zoning bylaw Z10 2021 undermines our decision to move into this single-family zone over 35 years ago. If these changes are allowed, traffic will become heavier and parking availability will be insufficient. There will be many cars on the streets due to lack of space. We will have less privacy than in a strictly single-family neighborhood, and noise levels will increase. Our main concerns: traffic and parking, loss of neighborhood character, impacts on quality of life, property values, owner occupancy, alternative solutions. Conclusion: transforming R1 and R2 zones to allow up to 3 accessory dwellings in addition to the main residence, a quadruplex, would penalize a long-established resident and undermine the core values that once defined Dieppe's identity. Let's not lose that. Our R1 neighborhoods offer calm, stability, homogeneity, and safety, making them a preferred choice for families or those seeking a peaceful and predictable living environment. Multi-unit buildings, such as those shown in your gentle densification plans, quadruplexes, create a sense of rupture with the family-oriented character of the area. We fear increased traffic, more noise, and a decline in the value of our properties. Respectfully, Martin Sophie, Grégoire Street. I wish to express my opposition to the proposed amendment to residential zoning R1 and R2 to allow up to 3 accessory dwellings in addition to the principal residence. In other words, a building known as a quadruplex in our residential area. Dieppe's R1 and R2 neighborhoods were designed to welcome families in peaceful, cohesive environments suited to single-family residential living. Introducing quadruplexes into these areas would radically alter the character of our neighborhoods. When we chose to live on our street, it was to settle in a quiet, family-friendly area with little traffic. We had no say when densification was approved all around our street. Hundreds of townhouses and apartments have surrounded us for the past 2 to 3 years. Each home has 2 to 4 cars per family. Cars are parked on both sides of the street. There's no space for a garbage bin, so they're all out front. It is very difficult to drive through these streets. Please leave our Zone 1 and Zone 2 neighborhoods as they are. 4 families in one house could mean 8 to 12 cars. That's too much. I can understand having an apartment in a basement or another part of a single family home, but not 4. During your presentation of the gentle densification project on September 8, 2025, you stated that it would not increase the number of people per resident, estimating 45 people per address. Hard to believe that converting a single-family home into 4 units on the same lot wouldn't result in more people living there. You plan to require 4 parking spaces, but it will be difficult to control the number of vehicles per household. If these changes are allowed, traffic will become heavier and parking availability will be insufficient. There will be many cars on the streets due to lack of space. We will have less privacy than a strictly single-family neighborhood, and noise levels will increase. Our main concerns: traffic and parking, loss of neighborhood character, impacts on quality of life, property values, owner occupancy, alternative solutions. Conclusion: transforming R2 and R1 and R2 zones to allow up to 3 accessory buildings in addition to the main residence, a quadruplex, would be a decision that penalizes long-established residents and undermines the essential values that were once part of Dieppe's identity. Please, let's not lose that. Our R1 neighborhoods offer calm stability, homogeneity, and safety, making them a preferred choice for families or those seeking a peaceful and predictable living environment. Multi-unit buildings, such as those shown in your gentle densification plans, quadruplexes, create a sense of rupture with the family-oriented character of the area. We fear increased traffic, more noise, and a decline in the value of our properties. Respectfully, Claude and Lisanne Gautreau. Hello, this message is to share my disagreement with the gentle densification project. Allowing single-family homes in the proposed zones to be converted into 4 units is excessive. I would have understood permitting the addition of 1 accessory building, 2 units per single-family home, but 4 units is far too much. Stéphanie Couturier, Eugène Lane. Hello, this message is to share my disagreement with the gentle densification project. Allowing single-family homes in the proposed zone to be converted to 4 units is excessive. I would have understood permitting the addition of 1 accessory building, 2 units per single, but 4 is much. Marie-Ève Cormier. I'm sending this email to express my strong disagreement with the proposed gentle densification for the city of Dieppe. I moved here into my single-family home to enjoy the peace and quiet of my street. Housing with potentially 4 apartments is, in my opinion, excessive, and I do not agree with it at all. Jeanette Couturier, Julien Lane. Good evening, Clerk. I wanted to share my questions, concerns, and comments regarding the proposed change for R1 and R2 zoning. First, I want to support Councillor Tang's comments about ownership transitions. It's a problematic trend to see homes here being bought and converted into Airbnbs. These units are rarely affordable and rarely rented long-term, which somewhat contradicts the goals of the initiative. I think this issue needs more attention before any bylaw changes are stated. Second, parking is clearly a hot topic for many. I have 2 thoughts of this. According to the presentation, the height limits for garden suites prevent the creation of garages separate from the house, where the accessory buildings would be located. Having a garage would be a better accommodate vehicles and reduce the number of cars in the house, and especially on the street. Second, you mentioned parking as a street solution when there are too many cars, but our winter regulations prohibit overnight parking in many areas. This could create contradictions between bylaws and permits. Thirdly, approximately how many of the affected lots can realistically accommodate a garden suite with 6 meters rear setback and 3 meters side setback? Looking at most lots in my neighborhood and my own home, 6 meters would place the suite practically against the house and or make it too small to be livable, even in a tiny house style. I ask because if the limits are too strict, they prevent the creation of garden suites and therefore undermine the initiative's goal. Fourth, is there an online location to view the posters displayed at City Hall and where we can provide input on aesthetic and urban design decisions? Fifth, since I'm unfamiliar with the process, what can we expect from the public hearing on October 14? Will you respond publicly to all written questions like these or only to those asked in person on the day? Thank you for your attention. Jasmine Assano.
I'm writing to express my opposition to the gentle densification project and the rezoning of neighborhoods currently zoned for single-family housing. This project raises serious concerns for me as a resident, including lack of parking space. Our streets are already narrow and saturated. Increasing the number of dwellings without a clear parking plan will worsen existing problems and harm traffic flow and safety, especially during winter months. Where do you expect residents of a 4-unit property to park their cars? Resident safety. Many affected streets lack sidewalks. Adding housing units and pedestrian traffic along with increased vehicle traffic under these conditions poses a greater risk to children, seniors, and all pedestrians. A significant increase in residents in neighborhoods not designed for such density can also lead to greater public safety risks, including fires, traffic accidents, emergency response challenges. The current infrastructure cannot effectively address these issues without proper planning. Risk of declining property values. Rezoning could lower the value of single-family homes, directly affecting families who invested in these neighborhoods for their peace and stability. We chose to settle here precisely for the quiet residential character of this neighborhood. Our home represents a major investment, both financially and emotionally. It would be deeply regrettable if our property values and quality of life were compromised by a municipal decision that does not reflect the expectations or the interests of the residents who live there. The threat, there's a risk that real estate businesses will buy these homes to make triplexes or quadruplexes out of them, which would degrade the setting, the residential environment. There's also a risk that certain investors will acquire properties in the aim of converting them into rental units for short-term rental platforms such as Airbnb. This kind of use in a residential neighborhood would compromise the tranquility, social cohesion, and the safety of the neighborhood. This type of situation is unacceptable and should be anticipated in this rezoning. It's a single-family home for young families, people who want to live in peaceful neighborhoods, have fewer options these days. And if these even fewer, if these are, if the rezoning is accepted, it's essential to preserve these spaces for future generations. And we risk losing our youth who would go elsewhere if they can't raise their families here. We've also already seen our green spaces disappear because of these apartment buildings, condos, and so on. It's not what residents here, and the government of Canada has put restrictions on immigration. So with the housing crisis, is there really a need for all of these apartment buildings? I have trouble believing that. Why are certain streets in the Gulf area are not included in this change? The houses are big, their lots are big. They could have 3 or 4 families living there. It's difficult to understand why that sector is not included, whereas other sectors are targeted. This is unequitable, and it's difficult to see the transparency here. As taxpayers, we have mandated our councillors to preserve our interest and to ensure the preservation of our quality of life. But here we are in disagreement because with this project, our voice is, we want our voice to be heard fully in these decisions that are going to have a direct impact on us. It's a possible solution. I understand that government funding is in the balance here. However, we could have a better, more balanced approach by limiting it to 2 units per lot. For example, a main house with an apartment in the basement, for example. That would meet some housing needs. That would help a young family in allowing them access to property while allowing them a source to help them pay their mortgage, and the growth of the population of Dieppe over the last few years will have led to an increase of the municipal coffers as well. So it's reasonable to think that there are other sources of revenue without compromising our residential neighborhoods. We'd like to maintain the reputation and the character of Dieppe, which is very attractive, which is a privileged destination for those who are looking for an exceptional quality of life. The residential neighborhood, the atmosphere here attracts families and newcomers. Why compromise all of this and make Dieppe something different? I'd like to share these concerns to the decision-making bodies, because this needs to be reassessed. And thank you for your attention and for your consultation. Democratic. Claudine Gauguin. I just learned the intention that the city of Dieppe has to modify its municipal plan, and this is a concern. However, I trust our elected officials and the professionals working on this will conduct the necessary analysis. I remember an insurance agent once told me that I live in a zone with a higher risk of sewer backup. If we suddenly have more housing in the same neighborhood, can the current infrastructure support this change? Or am I going to have to end up paying a surcharge one day because of it? Our engineers and our environmental experts know the current system better than me and the underground water tables. A few other questions I'm wondering about. Will NB Power be able to provide the additional services? Could property values decrease? Why not include a grandfather clause to protect existing R1 zones? Right now, there's a lot of housing under construction, maybe more than what will actually be needed. We could end up with a bigger problem, too many rental units, and discouraged developers. Will these new units become Airbnb style rentals? We're not a metropolis, and we don't have the public transit like those cities do. Shouldn't public consultation involve more than 400 people when the population exceeds 30,000? What would be a good consultation rate? What would be a good consultation rate? 1%, 2, 10, 30, 40%? It's worth asking. I spoke with about 10 people and only one knew about this. That was me. If there are 4 units on a lot, there could be up to 8 vehicles. Could there be up to 8 vehicles? This deserves serious attention from elected officials and city staff. These changes will be long-lasting and require careful consideration. If a mayor or councillor used this election as an election campaign today, would they be elected? The former municipal staff who worked hard to establish a zoning plan deserve respectfully submitted, Gilles Grondin. We watched the video about Dieppe's gentle densification project with great interest. We immigrated from France in 2020 and were fortunate enough to become homeowners in Dieppe that same year, are now proudly Canadians. First, we were extremely surprised by the term gentle densification because there's nothing gentle about the real estate rush we're currently experiencing in Dieppe. Excessive tree removal, expropriations, entire streets disfigured by multi-story buildings casting shadows over small homes, and happy homeowners who've lost all privacy due to tree clearing and new buildings overlooking their living rooms. Yes, people need housing, but how many and at what price? We're already feeling the impact on healthcare, growing traffic, rising insecurity, school overcrowding, lack of school buses, and a saturated job market, and so on. This real estate speculation has only harmed the quality of life for middle-class homeowners. Yes, our home values have skyrocketed, but since we live in them and don't plan on selling, we only see the downsides. Our taxes have doubled in 5 years and our city's quality of life is declining. While affordable housing is needed, we wonder who's really in charge, the city or real estate lobbyists. These shiny new buildings seem reserved for an elite. Reading the proposal, I immediately thought, is it up to small homeowners to make room and create affordable housing? This impression is confirmed when we examine the practical consequences of this so-called gentle densification. There is nothing gentle about ignoring infrastructure realities. driveways built for single-family homes won't suddenly accommodate vehicles for 4 families. Adding more pedestrian and vehicle traffic completely disrupts neighborhood life, with kids playing in the street and seniors walking peacefully. Many affected streets don't even have sidewalks. What about snow removal in winter? And what happens to garbage collection when it quadruples per lot? There's also the risk of noise and tension from mixing longtime homeowners with tenants who may be less respectful of the neighborhood. Worse, imagine a homeowner adding Airbnbs. Uncontrolled housing growth increases fire risks and raises concerns about maintenance inside and out, internet bandwidth, and other essential services. The current layout simply isn't designed for this level of density. We're already seeing its limits. Infrastructure cannot support public safety or emergency response effectively. This program threatens the investment we made. We chose this neighborhood for its tranquility and its residential character for ourselves and our children long term. We left a dangerous Parisian suburb to build our forever home here, and it's intolerable to see our quality of life deteriorate again. These conversions risk directly lowering the value of our single family properties, affecting the financial stability of citizens who contribute to the city at a time when we're already struggling to absorb rising taxes. We fear that our neighborhood will be degraded solely for the benefit of certain real estate companies or unscrupulous landlords. Worse still, that slumlords will seize this opportunity and settle in without concern for integrating them into the community. Our experience with suburban decline makes us especially sensitive to this risk. Why then open the door to 4 dwellings per lot instead of limiting to a single accessory unit? If the goal is simply to accommodate an aging parent or a student seeking independence, why is a special permit suddenly required to meet a family need, unless this is a speculative real estate program? By changing the city's configuration long term, we eliminate options for young families who hope to settle in a peaceful environment. If we don't preserve these spaces, we risk losing young people to other municipalities. Finally, this strategy lacks transparency and fairness. Once again, if it's not the middle class being asked to squeeze in further, why are the streets near the golf course unaffected? They have ample space and lots to accommodate these new developments, or perhaps they don't need special permits to house their elders or young adults. As tax-paying citizens, we request a serious reassessment based on real neighborhood conditions. With all of the buildings created and with all the building underway, we just want to have it spread out, and the citizens shouldn't have to ask for help to be able to stay at home. We didn't, with all of these new taxes, they should fund the new streets, new sidewalks, and so on. However, as citizen, we would ask for a reassessment of this based on real neighborhood conditions and not the wishes of real estate lobbyists. At most, homes could be allowed 2 dwelling lots per lot, the main home plus 1 accessory unit for the family, which is a stated goal of the program, to minimize the risk outlined above. And above all, the municipality must commit to closely monitoring the impact of these additions on neighborhood quality of life and infrastructure realities. We are committed to preserving the residential charm, peaceful atmosphere, and community identity that make Dieppe our city of heart. We ask that these concerns be conveyed to the decision makers. The word gentle must not be used as smokescreen for rush decisions that permanently degrade the quality of life of those proud to be Canadian homeowners in Dieppe. Thank you for your consideration. Véronique de Placido. I wish to express my opposition to the gentle densification project and the proposed rezoning of the areas currently zoned for single-family housing, R1. This raises several concerns: insufficient parking, our streets are already narrow, congested. Densification without a parking plan would worsen existing problems, especially in winter. Resident safety. Many streets lack sidewalks. Increased vehicle and pedestrian traffic would endanger children, seniors, and pedestrians. Property values. Rezoning could reduce the value of single-family homes and harm the quality of life for families already living here. Real estate speculation. The possibility of multiple conversions could attract investors with little concern for maintenance and encourage short-term rentals, Airbnb, undermining the family character of our neighborhoods. Fewer neighborhoods for young families. Transforming these zones would reduce options for young people hoping to settle in Dieppe. Inconsistent targeting. Why are some areas, such as those near the golf course, being spared? I understand the need for housing, but a more balanced approach, for example, allowing 2 units per lot, would better meet the needs without compromising safety, traffic flow, or neighborhood cohesion. Dieppe is known for its peaceful atmosphere, its residential charm, and its strong sense of community. These qualities are valuable and deserve to be protected. I ask that you forward these concerns to the decision makers so that the project may be reconsidered. Thank you for your attention and your commitment to democratic consultation. Serge Gauguin. As a resident of Dieppe, I wish to share several concerns regarding the gentle densification project. Having chosen this city for its quality of life, I question the long-term impacts of such a proposal. It's important to note that this project comes amid an already active wave of real estate development. We're seeing a proliferation of multi-unit buildings that are changing the look of our streets. This development has dramatic consequences, such as tree removal and loss of privacy for single-family homeowners who now face direct views into their living rooms. Here are the main points behind my concerns. Fear of real estate speculation. Allowing up to 4 units per lot seems to go beyond the simple goal of housing a family member, raising concerns about speculative development. This could benefit real estate companies or profit-driven landlords more than community integration. 2, inadequate infrastructure currently. Our current infrastructure may not support rapid population growth, including parking on driveways designed for single-family homes, increased waste management, emergency service capacity. 3, neighborhood safety and quality of life. More vehicle and pedestrian traffic could disrupt neighborhood life, especially on streets without sidewalks, posing risks to children and pedestrians. The peace and residential character we value would be threatened. Financial impact on homeowners. This project could lower the value of single-family homes, affecting the financial stability of residents who don't plan to sell. Tax pressure and the risk of families leaving. Property taxes have already doubled in 5 years for some residents. This financial pressure may force homeowners to seek rental income just to afford staying. If the city's peaceful character is altered, we risk losing young families to other municipalities. And the scope and the fairness of the project, allowing up to 4 units per lot exceeds the need to house a family member. Moreover, areas like the golf course seem unaffected, raising questions about equitable application. As a taxpayer, I ask that you forward these concerns to decision makers whom I've entrusted to protect my interests and quality of life. Through this letter, I've clearly and reasonably expressed my disagreement with the project. It's essential that my voice be heard and considered in decisions that will have lasting effects on my residential environment. In a constructive spirit and aware that government funding may be tied to this project, I propose a more balanced approach, limiting to 2 units per lot. A main home with a secondary apartment, for example, would meet housing needs while reducing the risks outlined above. This solution would help young families access home ownership by easing mortgage payments. Finally, Dieppe's population growth in recent years uh, has logically increased municipal revenues. I'm confident there are other ways to support development without compromising neighborhood integrity or residents' quality of life. Michel Lagache.
I would like to share my concerns and request clarification regarding the City of Dieppe's gentle intensification project, modification 2FE. This amendment states that the project must be on a lot where the owner resides at the time of the building permit application. This is an important requirement when issuing the permit, but the city must ensure that the owner continues to reside on the lot. Otherwise, the accessory dwellings become illegal or something similar to prevent the entire property from becoming a rental. If the owner no longer lives there, the property effectively becomes a 4-unit multifamily dwelling, a major departure from current R1 or R2 zoning. Will these amendments allow an existing home to be demolished and rebuilt with accessory dwellings added? Or will they allow new homes to be built on previously vacant lots with the accessory dwellings included? If so, Dieppe may see neighborhoods very different from those envisioned and presented as we've seen in other major Canadian cities. By allowing 4 dwellings where only 1 or 2 are currently permitted, I'm also concerned about the number of additional vehicles in driveways. We already see overflow onto streets, which is prohibited overnight in winter, or cars parked on lawns in some areas. How will the city regulate these behaviors before they become nuisances in neighborhoods where such issues don't currently exist? Why isn't the RMH zone included in these amendments? Many of these neighborhoods are currently developed with single-family, semi-detached, or duplex homes and could benefit from the same gentle densification. I understand that the City of Dieppe is pursuing this densification initiative to access funding from CMHC and the Government of Canada. However, I wonder if the city should instead continue with its existing municipal plan, which already allows densification in many areas, while adding modest densification options in low density zones, precisely so they remain low density rather than accepting federal conditions designed for large, fully built cities. Thank you for the opportunity to submit my comments, observations, and questions. I hope the city will revise the proposed amendments to reflect the concerns raised by myself and others. I remain available to answer any questions. Jacques Leblanc. I would like to express my concerns regarding the gentle densification project as proposed by the City of Dieppe. I fully understand that the city wishes to benefit from federal funding for new housing construction and to find solutions to the housing shortage. However, unlike other municipalities, the City of Dieppe still has enough space to build new housing without disfiguring R1 and R2 neighborhoods. The city already has a densification plan in place that is progressing well despite residents' concerns. The proposal to allow up to 4 dwellings on a single property seems more like aggressive densification in very small spaces. The example given by a city employee during the September 8 presentation was that this would allow aging parents and children to be housed. That does not require 3 accessory dwellings. Gentle densification on a single-family lot would be better defined as allowing a second dwelling, not 4. Does the city plan to implement mechanisms to ensure that new owners won't simply demolish the house and build 4-unit dwellings? Is this the first step toward that? We often visit Ottawa, where our son lives, and we've witnessed how neighborhoods have been transformed by what started as gentle densification. Contractors buy up homes, demolish them, and build 4-unit buildings. These occupy the entire lot, leaving no backyard space for children and families. Everything happens in the street. What's more, most tenants have two cars, meaning one ends up parked in the street. Street parking is also a concern. Already on Dona and Norbert Crescents, most apartments have 2 to 3 cars, so vehicles are parked on the street constantly. Kudos to the City of Dieppe for wanting to ensure safe, quality housing for every member of the community, but we must ensure that allowing 4-unit dwellings in our single-family neighborhoods does not negatively affect the quality of life of current and future residents. Thank you, Roger Doucette. I would like to express my strong opposition to the gentle densification project and the proposed rezoning of areas currently reserved for single-family homes. As a resident of the neighborhood, I wish to raise the following points. Parking issues. Our streets are already narrow and often congested. Adding more housing without clear parking solutions will only worsen the situation and compromise traffic flow and safety, especially in winter. Where will residents of a property converted into 4 units park their vehicles?
Protection des personnes.
Protection of individuals. Many targeted streets lack sidewalks. Increasing density will lead to more pedestrian and vehicle traffic, which increases risks for children, seniors, and other pedestrians. Moreover, densification in areas with inadequate infrastructure can make it harder to prevent and manage fires, collisions, and emergency responses. Without upgrades, these issues will remain unresolved. Impact on property values. Rezoning could negatively affect the value of single-family homes and penalize families who chose these neighborhoods for their tranquility. Our home represents a major financial and emotional investment. It would be unfortunate if its value and our quality of life suffered due to a municipal decision disconnected from residents' expectations. Risk of poorly regulated investor conversions. There is a real danger that developers will buy homes and convert them into triplexes or quadruplexes without concern for maintenance or neighborhood harmony, leading to a decline in living conditions. Some investors may also turn these units into short-term tourist rentals, for example, Airbnb, a commercial use that is inappropriate for family-oriented residential areas. These risks must be strictly anticipated and regulated. Fewer single-family neighborhoods for young families. Widespread transformation of these zones would leave few options for young families seeking quiet, family-friendly neighborhoods. It's important to preserve these spaces for future generations. Moreover, with the proliferation of large buildings and recent immigration restrictions, the need for massive densification seems questionable. Unequal treatment of sectors. Why not include the avenues around the golf course in this plan? Lots there are often larger and would accommodate multiple dwellings without disrupting the neighborhood. Excluding that area while targeting less suitable neighborhoods raises questions about fairness and transparency. Call for democratic listening. As tax-paying citizens, we expect our elected officials to protect our interests and quality of life. We express serious, well-founded disagreement with this project and ask that our concerns be considered in the decision-making process. Reasonable alternative solution. I understand that public funding programs may be tied to this file. However, a more cautious option, such as a limit of 2 units per lot, main home plus basement apartment, would offer a compromise increasing housing supply while preserving neighborhood integrity, potentially helping young homeowners manage their expenses and reduce the risks mentioned above. Dieppe's recent growth suggests that other development paths are possible without sacrificing quality of life, which makes our city attractive. Thank you. I ask that these remarks be forwarded to the appropriate authorities. This project deserves careful and transparent review, taking into account residents' lived experiences. Thank you for your attention and your commitment to genuine public consultation. Angela Arsenault. I would like to express my strong opposition to the gentle densification project and the proposed rezoning of areas currently reserved for single-family homes. As a resident of the neighborhood, I wish to raise the following points. Fewer single-family neighborhoods for young families. Widespread transformation of these zones would leave few options for young families like ours who wish to settle in quiet, family-friendly neighborhoods. It's important to preserve these spaces for future generations so families to be able to continue to live in them. Moreover, with the massive proliferation of large buildings in Dieppe, the need for extensive densification seems questionable. Impact on property values. Rezoning could negatively affect the value of single family homes and penalize families who chose these neighborhoods for their tranquility. Our home represents a major financial and emotional investment. It would be unfortunate if its value and our quality of life declined due to a municipal decision disconnected from residents' expectations. Parking issues. Our streets are already narrow and often congested. Adding more housing will only worsen the situation and compromise traffic flow and safety, especially in winter. Where will residents of a property converted into 4 units find parking? Risk of poorly regulated investor conversions. There's a real danger that developers will buy homes and convert them into triplexes or quadruplexes without concern for maintenance or neighborhood harmony, leading to a decline in living conditions. Some investors may also turn these units into short term tourist rentals, for example, Airbnb, a commercial use that is inappropriate for family oriented residential areas. These risks must be strictly anticipated and regulated. Call for democratic listening. As tax-paying citizens, we expect our elected officials to protect our interests and quality of life. We express our disagreement and ask that our concerns be considered in the decision-making process. Lastly, reasonable alternative solution. I understand that public funding programs may be tied to this file. However, a more cautious option, such as a limit of 2 units per lot, main home plus basement apartment, would offer a compromise, increasing housing supply while preserving neighborhood integrity, potentially helping young homeowners manage their expenses and reducing the risks mentioned above. Dieppe is known for its residential character, tranquility, and community spirit. It would be unfortunate to jeopardize these qualities that make our city attractive. This project deserves careful review, taking into account residents' opinions and concerns. Geneviève Fournier. Your Worship, this concludes the reading of comments, objections that we have received. Just to share the next step, this was a hearing in order to share publicly the letters we have received. Staff will be working on a document, an FAQ document, which will specify based on some information. For example, some streets were identified, but the accessory dwelling is already allowed in those areas. That's why they're not in R1 or R2, but it's allowed in other areas. So we'll be doing this work and share information with you. And we'll also make this information public on our website. The residents who have shared their comments so they can be informed with the decisions or additional details that we might be able to share with them, as well as the answers that we can share with residents. And also, Your Worship, you can ask at the microphone each time, as you normally do, to see if there are people who didn't have a chance to send an email or information, if they have anything additional to share. And it's the time to do that now. For those of you who have added something to the discussion, you are now invited to come to the microphone.
To pronounce themselves and step up to the microphone, we'll be more than happy. We would prefer to do this now while it's fresh. Et puis, après ça, on prendra un
After
petit
that,
repos.
we might take a quick break because I see some of you who are moving quite a bit in your chairs, and so it's a sign of something. So without further ado, first of all, please come forward, introduce yourselves, and maybe it's not necessary to introduce yourselves. So welcome, and council members. I don't want to come back to all the points of the letter I have sent to you already, because you have lots of thinking to do. I wanted to emphasize a couple of things. Many made allusion to Airbnbs. It's not directly mentioned in the bylaw that's being put forward, but I think that the city should be interested in putting some effort in that side. It was my pleasure to meet one of the planners of the city, and he reassured me quite a bit about what the city is doing. One of the things I understood is that the city does not currently have the authority to act on Airbnbs. It comes up often in the comments. Also, it reminds me, back in 2000, there was a debate about whether we could open stores or not on Sundays, and it's in the hands of the province, as is the case for Airbnbs. And the province at that point said, we're going to throw that back into the municipalities' backyards, and they can deal with that. And the city of Dieppe made the right decision. And so it was a wise decision by the province. So why don't they do the same thing with Airbnbs and allow municipalities to legislate on these matters? It's a long overdue, as we can say. Another point I wanted to rise is the concept of the owner, property owner. So long as you have an owner who lives on site, then this is going to ensure a minimum of maintenance for the property in the neighborhood. I already have neighbors who are renters. They have zero interaction with the neighbors. I think that the city should make sure that it remains up to the owner occupier. And if this change after things begin, everyone starts out with good intentions when they begin a project, but when things change, and it's not if it's going to change, but when it's going to change, I think you should be ready to act on these matters. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. You forgot to say your name? I'm sorry, I forgot to do it. Jacques Leblanc. I'm a Dieppe resident. Thank you, Jacques. Anyone else? No, that can't be true. Okay. So let's take a quick break of 42 minutes. Let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, a 5-minute break. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Alors, rebonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening again, everyone. Let us continue with tonight's meeting. We had quite a heavy workout with the first half. Let's see what happens in the second half. Questions by members of the public? Not sure that that's done. I don't know if there are any topics that members of the public or people in the room wanted to raise or share with us. And if not, we'll move on with the rest of the regular meeting.
C'est bon? C'est bien?
Oui, Monsieur le maire, on n'a rien reçu virtuellement ou
Worship.
par courrier.
We haven't received anything by email by way of questions. Okay, that resolves the matter then. This brings us immediately to item 10, adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on September 22nd. That seems so far ago. Councillor Brideau moves, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against nay. The resolution is carried as presented. Item 11. 11.1. Appointments. Mr. Mélenchon, this is to give full authority to our new employee, Maxime Blanc, all the responsibilities as the bylaw enforcement officer. The council gives the powers and responsibilities, so this resolution will provide him with this authority. Councillor Lantagne, please. Thank you, Your Worship. That pursuant to the Community Planning Act, 11.1.1, yes, that's right. Community Planning Act, the Local Governance Act, and the Police Act, Dieppe City Council appoint Maxime Blanc as a bylaw enforcement officer, and that he be authorized, designated, and appointed to act for and on council's behalf in order to properly enforce the municipal bylaws, and that said appointment continues as long as said person remains employed with the municipality, and that the appointment is limited or rescinded by council. I so move, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Lantagne, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. There being none, all those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Against nay. Resolution is carried as presented. 11.1.2. Appeals Committee, the tree bylaw. So since the passing of the tree bylaw, part of the process involves citizens who are in disagreement with the decision that has been made about their trees can proceed to appeal. So there's a committee in place for this. This is a renewal of those 3 individuals who were previously on the appeal committee. And to give them this authority, we had received other nominations. And believe it or not, we did a draw, and these 3 people's names were kept. And they have all the qualities that we were looking for. So we renewed these 3 people, and these are the names we're putting forward. Thank you. To read this resolution, Councillor Genet, one quick question.
Voilà.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Your Worship. That council appoint the following persons on this appeal committee pursuant to Section 18 of Tree Bylaw E1 2025 for a 2-year term ending October 13, 2027, or until said persons resign or that their appointment is limited or rescinded by council. Chrissy Léger, citizen. Mélanie Leblanc, citizen. Jérémy Ouellette, ISI, certified arborist. I so move. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Genet, seconded by Councillor Le Boutillier. On the question, there being none, all those important, yet say aye, against nay. The resolution is passed as stated. So on to 11.2.1.
Plan de développement, un plan de lotissement provisoire.
This is on a subdivision tentative plan entitled Doverwood Estates. And so it's responsibility of council to name streets and to accept land for public purposes. So the streets Litry, Pâturage, Étable Crescent, and Grange Street will be named, as well as the setting aside of land for public purposes, which meets the requirement of 10% set by the municipality. So this is for council's approval and then to allow the development of this subdivision. Thank you. Who would like to read this? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Doverwood Estate subdivision tentative plan, which provides for the location and the names of Litry Street, Pâturage Street, Étable Crescent, and Grange Street, as well as the setting aside of land for public purposes. And I so move. Thank you. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne on the question. Councillor Godbout. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. Does this go? I'm sorry, we didn't understand your question. I'm sorry. Is the land for public purposes, will it be accessible from the trail along the river? Yes. Thank you. Any further questions?
Madame Le Boutier.
Councillor Le Boutier.
Merci,
bon.
monsieur.
Thank you. It's a question of information. In our package, I found it hard to locate it because you talk about these streets, but it does, but I don't know where they are. So I imagine it's that whole area that's in red. Also, you're talking about apartment buildings and lots in Zone 1. Mr. Girard, please, could you turn on Mr. Girard's mic at the podium? There are 6 blocks or 6 residential lots. This will all be for single-family dwellings? Yeah, this is all for single-family dwellings. Thank you.
Lequel qui est lequel, là?
Who's who here? Which is which?
Oui, c'est ça.
There we go. So we call them blocks, but they're blocks. It's the terminology used in the development bylaw. So there's these large lots to accommodate the development of single-family homes. Thank you. That makes all the difference. And thank you, Your Worship. And the trail will go all the way to Amiro Street. So there's no green space that goes to Amiro Street, but it'll be along the roadway. And that's part of the overall project. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Oh, it's already been read. Okay, and we're just answering the question. So it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. So all those in favor of this resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. It's carried as presented. 11.2.3. No, sorry, 11.2.2. Thank you. Now, in the tentative amendment plan, we're talking about Champlain Street here. We own the lot behind, and the owner wants to develop a project. We have needs along Champlain Street for operational reasons, for traffic, and so we're proposing to exchange lots, and the PAC recommended it. So we ask you to support this recommendation, and so we can move on to the next step. Okay, who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Turgeon-Roy?
Que le Conseil accepte la recommandation.
Thank you. That Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of Champlain Street subdivision amending tentative plan, which provides for the location and name of Champlain Street. Thank you. It's been moved then by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Jeannin on the question. If there are none, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Now, 11.2.3. This is to set a date for a public hearing. Mr. Melançon? Yes. So this evening we had a public hearing for the rezoning. And when we published this rezoning proposal, we omitted one thing. So it should have said that we were talking about bylaw Z9 and bylaw Z10, but one of them was missed by human error. So we have to respect the procedure and set a date for another public hearing. So that's what we're proposing to do this evening. We want to set the date of November 10th here at City Hall. And we will ask also for time to get the recommendation of the Planning Advisory Committee. So we need to make sure that we respect the procedure. And so we are proposing to have another public hearing. We're not going to repeat everything that was said here this evening, but if any new objections or new comments come in based on what will be adopted a little later, we will be able to summarize all of the comments that we have received thus far, and they will be shared with the public before the next public hearing. So this is a question of setting the date and to ask for an extension for the PAC recommendation. Thank you. Councillor Brideau, would you like to read the resolution? Thank you, Your Worship. That Council schedule a public hearing on November 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at Dieppe City Hall to hear objections to the proposed amendments to the text of the Municipal Development Plan Bylaw Z9, 2017, and Zoning Bylaw Z10, 2021, in order to allow, in a single unit dwelling, the development of up to 3 accessory dwellings, in addition to the main dwelling unit in R1 and R2 zones. That Council extend the deadline adopted at the regular Council meeting held on August 11th, 2025, pursuant to Section 110.3 of the Community Planning Act, to November 24th, 2025, regarding the Planning Advisory Committee's written views on the above mentioned project. And I so move it, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. Carried as presented. We now move on to 11.2.3 to set a date for a public hearing. No, we've already done that. We are now at number 12. And this evening, We're here for the reading of the summary and third reading by title only of the procedural bylaw, which you will remember was in order to set the process of the public hearing and to also to summarize all of the comments received. So this summary will explain all of the amendments, and if the council would like to read this and adopt it. Who would like to read this? Councillor Godet? Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Oh, for not, it's nothing, nothing. The procedural bylaw A4 2025, a procedural bylaw of the Municipal Council of the City of Dieppe, pursuant to the authority vested in it by the Local Governance Act SNB 2017, Chapter 18, Paragraph 10(2)A, and pursuant to New Brunswick Regulation 2018-84, under the said Act, the Council of the City of Dieppe duly assembled enacts as follows. The sections of bylaw A-4 2025 remain unchanged from those set out in bylaw A-4 2024-1 adopted on December 9th, 2024, except for the addition of section 29 and the addition of Appendix A as follows. 29, procedure for statutory public hearings. In addition to the relevant provisions set out above, the provisions set out at Appendix A apply to public hearings required pursuant to Section 111 of the Community Planning Act for the consideration of objections. Appendix A, procedure for statutory public hearings. Appendix A, procedure for statutory public hearings. Public hearings required under Section 111 of the Community Planning Act shall be conducted in accordance with the provisions of said Act, and unless varied by Council by resolution, in accordance with the following procedure. Before setting the date of the public hearing, 1. When opening the matter before Council, in addition to other information about the application, bylaw, or municipal plan being considered, the Planning and Development Department will advise what reports or studies have been prepared or requested to support Council's decision-making, and will invite Council to consider and set forth by resolution what additional information or documents Council wishes to receive. Before the start of the public hearing, 2. Before the start of the public hearing, if there is concern for the smooth conduct of the hearing, the chair may direct that administrative measures be taken to ensure an orderly hearing. Such measures may include a briefing to the audience as to the sequence of the hearing, directives as to how the public may participate, and/or directing the registration of persons present and intending to speak at the public hearing. 3. Before the start of the public hearing, the Planning and Development Department will present an explanation of the application or subject matter to be considered. 4. The clerk will indicate whether any objections or other correspondence have been received. Conduct of the public hearing. 5. The chair will declare the public hearing open. 6. If objections have been received, the administration will state the nature of the objections received. 7. If the public hearing relates to an application, the applicant or developer will be invited to provide additional information if they wish. 8. Members of the public who wish to speak to an objection will be given an opportunity to speak. 9. Members of the public who wish to plead against an objection or who support the application will be given the opportunity. 10. The applicant or developer will have 10 minutes to respond to objections if they wish. 11. Members of Council can ask questions of the participants in the public hearing, but shall not enter into a debate. 12, after ensuring that all persons present wishing to speak before council for the public hearing have had the occasion to do so, the chair will declare the hearing closed. 13, once the public hearing is concluded, council members may ask questions to members of the Planning and Development Department. And I so move. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. Moved by Councillor and seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. If there are none, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Now 11.2.3. No, we're still at 12.1.2, a third reading by title only. Thank you. Thank you. Bylaw A24, a procedural bylaw for the city of Dieppe. In third reading, bylaw A-4 2025. I move its third reading and adoption in third reading. Saying it's been moved and seconded on the question. If there are none, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried. Now we're at 13. 13. Yes, item 13. We're at notice of motion. It's just that the councillor read the notice of motion, so we just need to ask a councillor to read the notice of motion. Thank you. Who would like to read this? Councillor Thibodeau.
Voilà. Merci, Monsieur le Maire.
Thank you, Your Worship. I give notice that policy A-8 2025, entitled Sale of Vehicles and Equipment, will be introduced at a future council meeting for adoption. That's all. Thank you. And that wraps up the city's file. So we're at number 14. 14, inquiries and announcements by members of council. Councillor Lantaigne. Thank you. I have nothing this evening. Councillor Godbout. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a reminder that next week we're going to get a presentation by the CRPA. And if you have any questions, that's the time to do so next week. And then last week we were able to participate in the meeting of the Union of Municipalities of New-Brunswick. It was a great meeting. It's really worth the time. I just want to confirm that the information that had been shared will be shared with all councillors. Yes, because it was really interesting material, and I really encourage you to look at that. It will allow us to have discussions, or if you have any follow-up questions. And thank you to the team who allowed us and who facilitated that. It was a very useful meeting. Thank you. Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago of participating in the updating of the Regional Service Commission. And I just wanted to point out that we got a report from Eco 360 who explained, and these are questions that the residents in apartment buildings often asked us. The questions about recycling for apartment buildings. The good news is that it is coming. There's going to be a call for owners to register soon, and within the next year, it should be implemented for apartment buildings. Another really interesting thing, perhaps it might be interesting to have them come give a presentation here, because quite often there are questions that they can answer, questions that the residents have on the recycling, on everything that's going on in their sector. So the person is Sébastien, I believe his name is. I'm sure he would be delighted to come to council and give you an update on all of their program, everything that's coming up. Thank you. That's all for me this evening. Have a great week. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Nothing this evening. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to give out a special invitation to everybody in Dieppe this evening. On Saturday, October 18th, we are going to celebrate the 65th anniversary of our Dieppe Library. So all former library trustees, directors, and staff, as well as all those who've contributed to the development of our library since its beginning in 1960. You're all cordially invited to a special event to celebrate the important role that our library played and continues to play in the promotion of reading, of education, and culture within our community. This event will be the opportunity to share memories and to highlight the 65th anniversary of the library in the network. So just to give you an idea of the program, there are going to be speeches by all of our special guests. There will be a historical exhibition with sessions with authors and activities for the young and the young at heart. So on the October 18th, starting at 9:30 in the morning, next Saturday, October 18th. And you're all welcome. Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you. Councillor Jeannin. Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing this evening. Have a great evening. Councillor Le Boutillier. Same for me. I have nothing this evening. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you. And Councillor Gaudette. Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one thing. On construction on Amiro at the corner of Dover, where Dieppe Boulevard is going to meet up with Amiro. It's been under construction for a number of months already. I get complaints on the dust, a number of complaints because of the dust. My question is, are the citizens in the construction zone, are they warned about the upcoming projects when this kind of project is upcoming? Because there are houses right there on the street. So are they warned? Are they advised of what's coming up? The properties that are directly in the construction zone do receive information and if their driveway is going to be blocked, for example. Now on Amiro Street, I'm not sure how long ago they might have sent out the notices, but I know there was an electronic signage placed close, not too far from the intersection to advise drivers. And there's also information given on the social media as well. Now, in terms of dust, I'll have to check, but this year was so dry. They do water it, but it's been so dry this year. According to our information, the contractor started putting calcium chloride on the ground. It's kind of like a salt, and it acts to control the dust. Yeah, well, it's just I've received some comments from citizens for a number of times. Some who said that they didn't receive any notice of it, that the others that had to wash the outside of their homes because it's much dirtier than it usually is, and there's only a 200 meters of work being done. So I went by there today, and it's only 200 meters. I don't understand why they can't control the dust. It's not a long stretch of highway. It's not kilometers of roadway under construction. It's just a couple of 100 meters. So I have a trouble understanding. And if I lived there, I know I wouldn't be very happy. I know it hasn't rained either, but calcium, I mean, maybe they could have put more. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm just sharing what I was told, and we don't want to. We just want to make sure for future projects we have to control the dust. We're not going to stop construction, but yeah, that's all I have this evening. Thank you, Your Worship. If you could share when the date is going, what date the road is going to be paved again, that roadway, at least to give our residents a notice that all of those who've had to put up with all of this dust. Yes, of course, according to the information that I've received, the curbs are going to be put in this week or next week, are going to start, and then they're going to build the actual roadway with the gravel, the subcoats, then the asphalt, and then perhaps by early November, they're going to start paving. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, if the weather permits, as always. Thank you. Thank you. And I have nothing to add. So have a great evening, everyone, and have a good week.